flies
Yes.
more number of passengers
Yeah.
than the total number of passengers in India.
Okay,
for
perfect.
example.
Okay.
So the question is, how do you handle your aviation sector, and how come you reached such a peak of the progress in your country, and how much time it took?
Well, I suppose, first of all, Ireland being an island nation means we have to try and get out of our island. And there's only one way to get out, either by air or by boat. Also, I suppose because of our geographic location, where we are located on the most westerly country in Europe, airlines in the early days stopped off at Ireland en route to Europe. And of course, the early pioneers also stopped in Ireland as they made their first transatlantic flights across to Europe as well. Finding out that they arrived in this green patch in Europe, didn't know where they landed, but eventually landed in Ireland. So I suppose our history of pioneering aviation is something special to us. And it evolved from here. Obviously, from there, we started off the flying boats back in the 40s, where they landed on the estuary near me as well. And then eventually the airport started to gather momentum. Dublin, Shannon, Cork. Airport. So I suppose this has come from a number of entrepreneurs and pioneers in aviation. I go back to somebody like Dr. Tony Ryan, who started off Guinness Peat Aviation, and Aer Lingus as well, our national carrier. So we had a lot of expertise and entrepreneurs working with Guinness Peat Aviation. At one time in the 80s, Guinness Peat Aviation was the largest leaser of aircraft all over the world. So I think that's an important, back in the 70s now, when aviation and flying was quite expensive. So he had the vision to start off this company, and he was joined by a number of very dynamic young people that wanted to excel themselves in the aviation sector as well. People like Michael O'Leary, who founded Ryanair, all these people and other aviation experts as well. So out of GPA came Ryanair, and Ryanair was called after Dr. Tony Ryan. And of course, Ryanair started off as a very small, low-cost airline based on the southeastern model in the US as well. Low cost. It's very new at the time. A lot of the traditional airlines had the cartel, could charge what they like. You know, in years ago, to cross from Ireland to the UK could cost you £400 at the time, £500, £600.
Very expensive.
Today you can get it as little as £20 each way,
God.
something like that. So that's what has happened with competition, how the low-cost carrier made a big difference to us, and how that model was copied all over with other carriers as well throughout Europe as well. So where are we now? The Irish aviation business is at a very strong point at the moment. Strong in a number of areas, strong in not just leasing alone. We lease over half the aircraft in the world from companies like GCAST, AirCap, and various other smaller leasing companies as well. And of course Avalon, which has been, you've heard of Avalon?
Yes.
Donald Slattery, who's a friend of mine from my own county, was the CEO of that as well. So I mean, the tradition was there, the entrepreneurship was there as well. And of course the other expert area which we became very expertise on as well is the area of maintenance of aircraft as well, and painting of liveries. All that area has been important to us. We have Lufthansa Tech, we have Shannon MRO, Shannon Aerospace, and I suppose what's important for why those companies are doing extremely well is the fact that we have a very good skilled workers who are very skilled, do a really good job and do a really excellent job at their job. So we get aircraft from all over the world for maintenance, for painting their liveries, Qatar Airlines among many others, the American Airlines. So that's extremely important to us. So at the moment, I suppose our aviation sector is going through a transition. Patrick, who's here from Shannon Airport Authority, we made that airport independent. Even though it's still a state airline, it operates on its own. And Shannon Airport has been a very important airport, because the first duty-free shop started off in the world started off in Shannon, and the first Irish coffee as well was made in that airport. So
Lovely.
The first customs-free zone in the world.
First customs-free zone in the world.
Yes.
So all those are important areas. So from that point of view, we see we're experts in aviation. Aer Lingus, our national airline, is now part of the AIG group. We're a very small airline, our country, so it was very difficult for a national carrier to survive you're with. So there was a policy, I suppose, in the 90s and the 2000s for airlines to merger. We see the consolidation of Lufthansa, Air France, KLM, all these four different groupings merged together in different groups, and so Aer Lingus became part of one of that group, as then One World with AIG as well. So this is where we are at the moment. We see, as we come out of our own downturn, our own downturn in the economy, and as our economy starts to grow again, we're now the fastest growing economy in Europe. We see aviation as an important sector where we can grow in the sectors that I mentioned, in maintenance, leasing, aircraft parts, software for aircraft. And that's why the government have designated a cluster in the Midwest region of Ireland, where Shannon Airport is. That company is now in the process of starting off a new aviation-related industry in that region. I know Mr. Edmonds here has some information on that as well. So we're really doing well, and that's why we're here to showcase this and to bond the friendship and relationship between a country like Ireland and India. India is geographically huge. It needs connectivity.
Yeah.
And connectivity by air is so important.
How do you partner with your country for that?
Sorry?
How do you see a partnership happening between India and your country?
I see it in a number of
forward?
ways. Obviously, they're leasing. A lot of Indian airline companies will lease aircraft from Irish companies.
One question from my side would be, what kind of support has been there from the government side, from your side to your airlines, your entrepreneurs? Because that could be a good benchmark for the countries like India.
Well, can I say, first of all, that our government supports entrepreneurship. It's extremely important. And in the whole area of science and technology, we have invested a lot of money in that area. To train apprenticeships, to train our graduates, our universities. We've encouraged them to link up and do aviation courses as well. And this is how we're going to move forward here. We want to make Ireland the centre of excellence for aviation. And the government is spending money on science and technology, in university courses, encouraging airports to go in that direction, tax incentives as well, as we're doing that.
What kind of tax incentives?
Tax incentives for aircrafts for airline leasing companies, for other aircraft companies to set up in Ireland. For maintenance and for all these other aircraft related companies as well. We see that as important because we want to start a cluster, grow that cluster, both from the US side, from the Asian side, and that's maybe we can encourage India. That's why I've invited the aviation minister to come to Ireland, to see for himself at first hand what we have to offer in relation to why Ireland has become a mega for not just for the ICT sector, but also for aviation and professional as well. Do you want to say a few words on that, Patrick?
If I may comment.
Just to add,
Yes.
you said today it costs pound 20.
Oh, euros. Let's say euros. Yeah.
Euro.
Yeah.
You would have
How?
yeah.
Okay. Does it allow the profitability to airline?
Yes.
It does, yeah.
How come it is such a low price?
Because it's the way they make up their prices.
The airlines like Ryanair and the other carriers have become extremely competitive, extremely price focused, and we
Okay.
see this happening in the Indian market as well. But it means that they look very closely at all parts of their costs.
Yeah.
They look at their airport costs very aggressively. They look at their staff costs very aggressively, and they take each of these slices of the pie and they squeeze each of them, and that has this result.
But don't get us wrong. There's still, they will make up that with expensive seats as well for
That's
people.
the point.
For
How would they make up?
So
last minute bookings.
if I have to travel on a business trip tomorrow, I will not get a €20 fare.
Okay.
They will sell me a
You
ticket
will
for
be
€200. I will
charged.
be charged.
Yeah.
Very good.
Also, I will get my €20 fare, but if I want to have a coffee on board, it costs
They
me
charge
money.
you.
If I want to take a suitcase, it costs me money. So
And
they will find ways.
there are certain times of the day then, obviously early morning flights where business people are going out, they won't get them as cheap, whereas late night flights into London, they'll be much cheaper as well. But they have revolutionised the whole costs and brought down costs, and as Patrick has said, when you have competition on a route,
That's right.
and there's fierce competition on the Irish routes to London, and it's not just those two airlines as well. We have British Airways
others.
flying in as well. We have a number of smaller airlines that are flying into the regional areas as well of the UK as well.
It has had a big impact though on airports also, because as these carriers started, the incumbent airports were being challenged. Many of these airlines started flying into small secondary airports, which maybe were 50 miles away, but they were much, much cheaper. And now the consumers have been educated,
And of course, it put challenges on people like Patrick
right.
as well in his airport. They have to bring down their costs as well.
We've been.
So the airports are much friendlier.
They are, yeah.
In terms of cost.
They have to be because they're not monopoly suppliers of airports. So the airports have to compete with each
And
other.
they have to depend on other areas for revenue outside of the airlines as well, like leasing shops.
That's
and,
right. Charging for car parks, doing
and
other
all that.
things
So
as well.
it's a combination of issues.
And you were asking a moment ago, sir, how Ireland can maybe help India, and it's incredibly impressive what is happening here. Some of the ways we can help, obviously, with our leasing business, we can help to bring aircraft availability through leasing to the Indian market. Some of the other areas we see we have very strong aviation education, technical training engineers, pilots, and so on. And there's a huge need for that in the Indian market.
Yeah, well, that's a big area that we're
Quality training is the crucial
Yes,
issue.
that's a really
Zero compromise.
Yes, exactly. It's absolutely.
That's a big area we have at the moment now is crew training. We get crews from all over the world into Ireland to train crews, and we're a centre of excellence in that area as well. So it's a combination of all factors, including there's a very successful company in Ireland, in Dublin, that makes all the seats for aircraft as well. So we look at every aspect outside and the software for aircraft as well. And when you travel around the country and see these companies, what they could do, shows you how we've been successful at it. But we want to help out in other countries as well. That's in the area at the moment of growing and formulating new aviation policies.
One of the ways, and you were asking about how the industry has been successful, and part of that I think has been, I'm allowed to say this because I'm not in the government, part of that has been enlightened government policy. Another part has been we have a very pragmatic regulator. Our aviation regulator in Ireland, the Irish Aviation Authority, is very supportive of the industry. Safety is absolutely top priority, but they are very commercially aware and they help the industry to develop. So for example, one thing I was discussing in the last couple of days here, if one day India, in the Made in India initiative, if India builds a civil aircraft, for example, it would be great to sell that more widely in the world.
Yeah.
So Ireland and the Irish regulator could help to really that and to help
and
to
also,
support
I suppose,
that for the rest of the world.
supply parts.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, I think skills as well. Our skills are something that are really, really important. And that's why we're so successful with aircraft maintenance, and we have a lot of aircraft maintenance in the country as well. Even though we're not a low-cost economy, but because we do a really good job, companies like to come, airlines like to come to us.
How's the business aviation doing in your country?
Business aviation would be small. We have a number of operators that operate commercial airlines, but it would be small.
Does it contribute to your regional connectivity?
It does. No, regional connectivity, we have to subsidise it. Government have to subsidize through a European Union PSO.
Okay.
That would be to the regions, to the western regions, like some northeast, southeast, these areas, and we fly smaller turboprop aircraft into those regions to ensure that
Which kind of aircraft?
So it's a SAP 340 in one case and an ATR 72 in the other.
ATR 72. So we have to make sure that there's regional balance as well, that those regional country areas aren't disadvantaged. So we have a PSO subsidy, which is quite expensive for the government. It can work quite expensive, but the regions expect to get that connectivity as well as the four big centres.
So government is willing to take care of that subsidy.
Okay.
That's too great.